Hey, Dan.
Hey, Alex.
Hey, another night of boards and bottles.
Yep, it's game night.
I love it. We're back for another exciting episode. You know, this is the show where we pair excellent games with exceptional drinks.
Of course.
Have to. All that we kindly ask is that you subscribe, you like, you comment.
Find us on all the socials.
That's all we need. It's really super simple. I mean, most people that watch this are like fans of 17 other things.
Oh, yeah.
Why not make it 18?
What's another one? We only play
Exactly.
every 2 weeks.
All right. Well, let's get started.
All right.
This week you brought the game, I brought the game.
So, we did something a few weeks back. Some of you may remember, some of you may not, but we did something that we called Double Fisting! Boom!
Yes.
So, what we do in Double Fisting, we take one game, and we each bring a drink.
2 beverages, one
beverages.
game. Look out.
So, what we're doing tonight, I've got something very special for y'all. It's To Infinity and Beyond with the crew.
Toy Story edition.
No. So in
Quest for Planet 9.
yes, if you want to get official about it. So in the crew, it's a trick-taking game at its heart.
Yes.
But it's a cooperative trick-taking game, which makes it really, really interesting. So in the crew, we're going to have this logbook. This is a mission book filled with like 50 missions, and they're nuts. So everybody knows how a trick-taking game works, right?
Sure, you try to take the tricks.
Yeah,
Everybody
definitely.
plays one card, and usually the highest card wins it. Sometimes there's a trump suit, and then that trump suit wins it.
Yep. Of course, you got it. If you've ever tried to teach a trick-taking game at the table, though, it can be a little bit daunting for people that aren't familiar with it.
Maybe like flying through space.
Definitely. So you got to get their feet wet. You got to ease them into it. So there's a couple that are pretty easy. So in the crew, we've got a deck of cards. There's a bunch of suits in here. And I'll start off easy with maybe saying, hey, you got to win a couple tricks, right?
Everybody's got to take 2 or something super simple.
Yeah, it's pretty easy. Then all of a sudden they say, Alex, you need to take this suit and you need to win with the blue 8.
And that's fine, right? Until somebody else has to win, and the other card turned up is the blue 7.
Yep.
And then it's like, how do you take one and I take the other? And how do I let everybody know that I only have the blue 8?
Exactly.
And you let everybody know that you only have the blue 7. That's where it gets really complex.
It does. And so there's these little communication tokens, which in some missions, they allow you to actually put out a card and let people know a card that you have, which is super helpful if you know that somebody's trying to get something and you want to say like, hey, look, I've got this and it's going to be difficult for you to work around.
Because one of the central parts of the game is you cannot talk in space. No one can hear you scream. Isn't that what they say? So exactly. Sure.
Never been to space.
Yeah, neither have I. But so in this game, it's exactly right. This is the only way you can talk to each other, and typically you can only put it out one time.
Exactly.
One card, and you indicate based on where you place it on the card if it is your only card of that suit, if it's the highest card of that suit, or if it's the lowest. And a lot of times I tend to do that when I play with groups with this game. It's usually if one of the cards is turned up, like we have the 1 yellow, the 3 green, the 4 8. Some people will put that card out to indicate like this is my highest. Or,
Yeah. Yep. And especially if it's like the 1 yellow and you're going to be like, yeah, I have this. This is going to be tough for us as a group to feed this to somebody. And you can do it. I mean, you can work around it. And especially the more games you play in an evening, the more you guys get this like not even a verbal, like you don't have to verbalize it anymore. You just smell what everybody else is stepping in. You're like, all right, yeah, I see you there. I know what you got. We got it.
The hive mind
It
starts
is.
coming alive.
That's the word I was looking for.
The hive mind that comes alive.
Definitely. And so, we had talked about how these missions start escalating in difficulty. All of a sudden, they'll say like, okay, you need to get the blue 7, but then you need to get the blue 4 after he gets the blue 7. Is that what I said?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So
Good job there,
all of a
Dan.
sudden, you've got to get these tricks, and you've got to get them in a specific order. And if you don't have that order right, you're done. And you can have the best laid plan, then all of a sudden you get to the very end, and somebody's like, "Oh no, I know you need to win this trick, but I won the last one, and now we can't do it." So it's
You get pinched a lot in this game, and also it comes when you're selecting who has to take which one, because a lot of times when you start getting into some of the mid to later rounds, you have to start pulling 2 or 3 of those different action cards that you have to take, and in certain orders you'll say this one then this one, and so that's tough because when I choose, then that one's off the table and somebody else might go because that was like the only one out of the 4 that we have to take that they had a shot at taking, right?
Yep.
But you can't telegraph that. You can't be like
right.
Nothing.
Nope. So yeah, and this it's insane because the game plays really quickly. So there are these really, really hard missions, and you'll get burned by them. But then you can reset and do it again really quick. And it's amazing because we can get hung up on a mission and we can play it 5, 6 times and not be able to beat it. And then you go to the next mission, which progressively harder. We beat that one in the first shot. So I mean, it's just how long we've been playing. Like, what's the hands we're dealt? What's the cards that came up? What's the order we've got to do it in?
And it feels like a legacy game in that kind of a way.
It does.
Because these rounds are quick. They move in 10 to 15 minutes, right? If you get it all set up. And then as you progress, it's like, how many do we want to do? And that's what's nice because, I talk about filler games all the time, right? A small little game you can just break out. Everybody knows. So if you started doing this, you can say, hey, anybody want to do 1 or 2 more missions on the crew?
Exactly.
So, you've played a crunchy game, maybe another one on deck, or maybe you're just run out of time because you played a Feast for Odin that night, and only have so much time left. You can just break this out and say, let's do 1 or 2 real quick.
Exactly.
See how far we can get.
Yep. Or, we get done with the main game and people aren't ready to go home. Just want to hang out a little and have a couple more drinks. So, that leads us to drinks. So, let's just go back to how we started. To infinity.
And beyond.
Some of you may have heard of this.
I see what you did now. Oh, man. Dan, you're a level above.
Some of you may have heard of an infinity bottle before. For those of you that haven't, we'll guide you through it. It's super easy. Do you remember when you were a kid? Maybe not you, maybe a cousin, maybe a friend. You would go to like a restaurant and they have the do-it-yourself soda thing.
Yes.
And
mix and match it.
Yeah, some disgusting child, maybe me, maybe somebody else, would put their cup in and press all the buttons, and you'd make this awful, awful soda that you thought you just made, and you were the chef of this particular brand of soda. That's exactly what an infinity bottle is. But it's for grown-ups. It's got whiskey in it.
That's right. And I mean, I always think that you might love whiskey and you might think you're a connoisseur, but until you start blending your own, and what I mean by that is having an infinity bottle and mixing little bits, this brings you to the next level. And it's about creating your flavor profile of what you enjoy.
Definitely. Absolutely. And we're not just taking like the last bit of every whiskey that we have.
Discriminating.
Exactly. Yeah. And I mean, maybe at first it had started that way for us. But there's definitely a flavor that appeals to you. And I think both of us have been a little bit more selective about what's going in there because we think it's going to enhance the profile of what is in our infinity bottles. So these are completely unique. I'll show you mine as well. Mine is in a Stormtrooper decanter.
I love it.
These things start off, and we're going to pour a little bit of whiskey into them.
Yours is about full.
It is.
Wow.
There was a couple that I tried recently that I said, these need to go in there. So
look at the color difference, too.
I know.
Because I usually do scotches, and mine's a lot lighter than yours is, and you typically do bourbons,
I do
right?
bourbon. I do oaky bourbons is where I've been going.
Yeah.
On this. So, and we can...
Lots of char in there.
Yeah, we can definitely talk about that a little. But as you're pouring this stuff in... you're drinking it and it comes down and then you're pouring more in. And so this flavor is constantly evolving. And it's one of those things that just amazes me where it's like you can put in really, really good whiskey. You can put in bad whiskey. And this thing is going to morph and it's going to be one of a kind. It might be the best whiskey you've ever tasted, but it's temporary because until you put the next thing in, that could elevate it or it could bring it way down.
And sometimes if you have a really good bottle and it's like you almost mourn the loss of it when that last sip is drawn out.
Right.
And so the beauty of this is you never know when that last sip of that bottle is actually gone.
Yep.
Because it just seems like it's, goes on for infinity. It's like, well, no, clearly I've had sips of some of this, and there's just a drop left of everything that I've added. I will say there is a disclaimer here, and that is be careful. And it is okay to have multiple infinity bottles, whatever.
Definitely.
Somebody like a friend or a spouse might say, it's sometimes okay to have more than one. Because if you like different flavor profiles, you might not want to mix them, which is what I've done in mine, and we'll taste it, and I'm trying to rehab it. But I love Islay whiskey, that smoky peatiness. So I had a lot of Highland whiskeys, and then I put in one Lagavulin, little bit, and it totally changed everything about it. And then it felt like everything was smoky. And that's interesting, but if you're really going for one thing, you just have to be careful if you just totally put in something that might off-put the whole thing. But
it could have been wonderful.
I was going to say that also the other thing is you want to make sure there's complexity to it, because it's so easy to say, I love Lagavulin so much, I'm going to do the 12 and the Distiller's Edition and the Offerman Edition, I'm going to do them all, and it's going to be a wonderful blend.
Yep.
No, it's not. I mean, it'll be fine, and you'll still enjoy it, but it won't bring a lot of complexity. The whole benefit is taking different kinds and mixing it together. And I remember when we first had yours, I was like, I get this and this.
Yeah,
It was just so heavy on this and this.
Exactly. So,
You have to start blending it and morphing it.
Early on in this, I wanted to go for cherries and oak. Those are two flavors that I really, really like.
And he got it.
And I got it. And it was very one-dimensional. It was very good whiskey, but it was one-dimensional. And so that's when I really started thinking, like, I got to get some rye spice in here. Like, what can I add to this that's going to make the flavors pop? I needed more proof. I needed some spice. So I've added some spice to it. As you can see, mine's pretty full. So this is going to be a evaluation of the newest version of the Dan Infinity bottle. But let's start with the Scotch.
You got it. So obviously, this doesn't continue to age once it's out of that barrel, right? So, I mean, that's another thing is that, we can say, oh, we feel like we're being little master distillers, but, you're really not. You're just kind of...
You're being a blender.
You're blending some things together, but you're not really knowing what something's going to taste like after it gets done aging.
And that's a good point, because some people, especially whiskey novices, they'll say, I have this Lagavulin 16, but it's from 1990, so instead of 16 years, it's like 34 years.
It's 34-year-old Lagavulin.
No,
it's not.
Once it goes in the glass, it's done. You need that barrel interaction for it to get more flavors to it. Once it goes in glass, it's just kind of sitting there.
And I've had somebody ask me that, multiple people before, where they'll say, oh, I've come across this Glenlivet 12 that was in my dad's stash, and we're now selling the home. Do you want to buy it for like $300? I'm like, it's still a Glenlivet 12.
Right.
And it's still going to ever be that.
Unless something like significantly different has happened in that distillery.
Mostly it's just less whiskey in that bottle.
Right, yeah. You've lost some to angels. But, I mean, there's been a few distilleries that we've talked about where they've been mothballed, and when they get reopened, it's not the same quality. Or maybe they were getting some grains or something from somewhere else, and they no longer get it from there.
Oh,
and I can smell it from here, man.
Cheers.
Ooh.
Well, now it's got a lot of smoke in it. So.
It does. It's got definite smoke and peat, but getting like a lot of pears or apples as well.
Mm-hmm. So wait till you get a sip of that. It's going to be very different from the oak peat that you expect.
Ooh. Oh, wow.
So
it just keeps going.
I started with Auchentoshen. Or Auchentoshen 12. Then I went to the Buna 18-year, the Balvenie 14-year Caribbean cask, the Jura Prophecy, one of my all-time favorite whiskeys.
Yep.
The Highland Park Valkyrie, one of my all-time favorite. Lagavulin 16, one of my all-time favorite. And that's when the flavor changed. Tomatin 18.
Okay.
Glen Roth's 1998.
Ooh.
Yeah, I got the age stamp on that one. And then the Dalmore 15 year. And so that's kind of where it's at right now. And there's some others that I'm looking to add once the bottle gets lower and lower. But it's a good start there, at least.
Definitely, yeah.
Some exceptional whiskeys.
It is. And it's amazing that there's that little Lagavulin in there, and it's this smoky peaty.
So the Prophecy has some smoke peat to it.
It does.
And there are hints of it in some others. You know, Buna obviously has a little bit, least amount of the Islays, but still some. Yep. And that Valkyrie, a lot of sweetness. So it's just tasty because it's got, like you said, a lot of that pear, that apple into it. Mm-hmm. A lot of sweetness.
Yeah, it's like that smoke right in the front, and then it evolves into that sweetness, and then you get pepper on the back. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's got a long finish. That is tasty stuff.
Good deal. Glad you enjoyed it.
Definitely. All right. So,
Dan, what's yours at? Woo!
This is this guy. So,
bum 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 bum. Okay.
Again, so this has by my count, this has 18 different bourbons, whiskeys, rye, finished whiskeys in it. There may be more. There may have been a night or two that I put stuff in here and did not write it down and don't remember doing so.
I'm sure you kept exact count.
It's happened. I'm sure. So we're gonna give this a shot.
All right.
This again is the cherry oak with up proof, and now we've got a little more rye in it.
Ooh, see, now you know I'm gonna love it.
So we're gonna see. It's got some of the rye that I like instead of some of those like minty rye. I like the rye spice. I like spicy peppery rye.
Oh, that is complex and exciting in that nose.
I hope so.
Ooh.
I wanted to get away from the one-dimensionalness. Oh, yeah, that's brown sugar right there. Woo. Brown sugar cherries.
Already.
And the oaks
you can
there.
Smell that spice. Mmm.
Yeah.
Dan.
We'll see.
Cheers. Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's tasty, man.
Wow, Dan.
That one is good.
That is exceptional.
That's really good.
Oh, my gosh. It just melts away.
It does. It's got that thick mouthfeel. And again, I was saying earlier, I wanted to make sure I got the proof up a little bit because I thought it drank a little too easy last time.
This drinks too easy. Wow.
Yeah.
That is.
Oh, man.
That is really good. Oh, my gosh.
Cool. And I can give you guys the recipe, but again, you put some in and you drink it down and it goes back up. And so who knows what actually percentage-wise of what is left in there. So get it while it's good.
You got it.
Come to game night.
Well, good that you brought that up. Last episode, we ended and mentioned that one lucky subscriber was going to get a sampling of whatever we were drinking this time. So that means a sample of my infinity bottle and your infinity bottle?
Definitely.
We're giving up a sample and shipping it to some lucky subscriber.
We will. We'll get it to you, and you guys can judge for yourselves which infinity bottle's more your speed. I mean, because they're both good.
They're both good. Very different.
They are. They are very different.
That goes back to the whole bourbon or scotch. Bourbon or scotch.
But it's something where you can like both. You totally can. You may prefer one over the other, but I think there's definite enjoyment out of both of these.
Oof. So, did we get a lucky subscriber that we picked?
We did. We ran a randomizer with our subscribers, and the lucky man is, or woman, Gabe Caban.
All right.
All right, Gabe. We'll be contacting you. We'll get some information, and you will be the lucky recipient of some infinity bottles and your very own coaster with some beautiful, beautiful men on it.
I hope you enjoy that. All right, Dan, so we got to the point where we got to say, where do we think crew with the double fisting episode comes into play? Because now we've got two amazing infinity bottles, and the game is fun. Don't get me wrong. The infinity bottles put it way up the list, but
It
I don't know
does.
how high up it actually gets.
I know, and this is something that obviously you can't play the crew with our infinity bottles.
No.
But
You can play it with your own,
yeah,
though.
totally encourage you guys to start one of your own. Give it to your friends, see what they think. Let them give you a hard time if it's terrible. If it's terrible, you can pivot. I mean,
Failure
Alex
is not
said-
an option, Dan.
Alex said this one was
NASA tells us
one-dimensional and
this.
not good.
You pivoted very
It's
well.
now good. So, let's figure out where this thing goes.
Oof. It's so good. It's so good. I do like the crew. And it's our first trick-taking game, I think, on the
It
list.
is. We don't have a trick-taking game on here. We don't have a lot of small games on here. A lot of filler games. So,
Yeah.
this is difficult.
I know. I almost put it slightly ahead of Cthulhu.
Yeah.
Does it go any higher than that? It's hard to beat out the Dune and your Quaisac Sazerac.
It is. I think it does it though. I even think
I felt the butt coming on.
I might put it above. I might put it between Orleans and Ark Nova.
All right, you got it. It breaks into the top 10.
Top 10.
Wow.
And this is a do-it-yourself DIY project assigned by the Bottles and Boards and Bottles guys.
I like that.
So definitely make your own infinity bottle if you want to share. I mean, totally
Not if
down
you want
to
to share. We want to know what infinity bottle you're making and how you started out, because we are not the geniuses, right? We want to hear from everybody else. That's what makes us so excited, is share what you're coming up with. What pairings and what infinity bottles. What are you putting in
Absolutely.
yours?
Yeah, and if we're at a convention in the near future and you guys are going to be there, feel free to bring it. We can share these things with people. So
my gosh, yes.
excited about that.
Very exciting. All right. Well, Dan, what do we say?
We say game hard, drink responsibly.
Cheers,
Cheers, guys.
Woo!